It is 7:15 in the morning. A teacher sits with a stack of reading assessments. She has 23 students and 23 completely different reading profiles. Some confuse their B and D sounds. Others decode words well but fail to comprehend a full paragraph. In exactly 90 minutes, the bell rings. The frustrating part of this scenario is that the science of reading is actually incredibly clear. Decades of research back a framework called structured literacy. When pillars like phonics, vocabulary, and comprehension are taught explicitly and sequentially, students learn to read. The evidence base is settled. But here is the problem almost nobody is talking about honestly. Implementing that rigid, multi-step teaching sequence perfectly for 24 unique minds simultaneously is structurally impossible for any single human being. The May 2026 issue of The Journal identifies AI as a specialized tool for these specific friction points, allowing structured literacy to finally function at scale while the teacher keeps their hands on the wheel. As long as we rely entirely on a teacher's caffeine and goodwill to bridge the massive gap between assessment data and a tailored lesson plan, the science of reading will continue to fail in the real world. When you look closely at classrooms, the breakdown of structured literacy happens at 5 highly predictable bottlenecks. First is the diagnostic lag. A teacher runs fluency probes and screeners, but cross-referencing that raw data to figure out the right groupings takes hours of manual work. The data piles up, and by the time a clear picture emerges, a whole week of potential intervention has slipped by. Second is pedagogical drift. Explicit phonics instruction requires a tight I do, we do, you do sequence with immediate corrections. Under the heavy cognitive load of tracking 20 kids at once, teachers naturally lose their pacing. Third is the lag in progress adjustments. A student might need to loop back and review short vowels, but because that weekly tracking data usually ends up sitting dormant in a binder, the real-time signal gets missed. Fourth is the impossible math of mixed ability rooms. Managing 3 or 4 different small groups, all at entirely different stages of a reading scope and sequence, requires the teacher to juggle multiple lesson plans at precisely the same time. And fifth is systemic time poverty. Teachers already work nearly 11 hours a day. When a complex reading model demands hours of extra preparation without reducing any other duties, the complex model gets simplified or entirely abandoned. When these 5 pressures pile on top of each other, the structured literacy model collapses. The most vulnerable students are ultimately left behind. This timeline illustrates what educators call the analysis to action gap. Purpose-built AI directly addresses those 5 bottlenecks by aggressively compressing this specific timeline, stripping away the administrative delay. Instead of spending a weekend cross-referencing spreadsheets, a teacher inputs assessment scores, and the AI instantly surfaces the overlapping patterns. It provides actionable, data-backed student groupings in a matter of minutes rather than hours. To protect against pedagogical drift, the AI generates instant pre-built lesson scaffolds. Providing a tight, step-by-step framework tailored to specific skills drastically lowers the cognitive load on the teacher during instruction. AI also removes the traditional limits on differentiation. Producing a decodable text, a story restricted only to the specific phonetic sounds a child has learned, is incredibly tedious work. AI can draft these custom-level texts for multiple distinct reading groups simultaneously. In rural or small school environments, where one teacher might handle 1st through 3rd grade with only 20 minutes of planning time a day, this rapid scaffolding is an absolute lifeline. Instruction remains the domain of the teacher, while the AI reclaims the administrative hours lost in the bottleneck, providing the mental space needed to focus on delivery. There is a hard boundary to what automation can achieve. Code cannot hear the slight hesitation before a student blends 2 sounds together. It cannot witness the shift from confusion to confidence when a student masters a vowel team, and it cannot build the relational trust required to make a struggling reader try again. That is why the human-in-the-loop requirement is strictly non-negotiable. AI systems make errors. They occasionally create nonsense words and mismatch reading levels. The machine is strictly subordinate. The AI surfaces and drafts, but the teacher must always decide. Nothing reaches a student without a professional educator acting as the final quality gate. This anchors teaching firmly in its role as a true human calling. The technology exists solely to serve the child, but human discernment is required because only the teacher truly knows the child. Try one low-stakes test this week. Take a single phonics screener result and run it through a free tool like Claude. Ask it for a 2-week focus plan for that specific student, then compare the output directly to your own professional instincts. See where the machine validates your knowledge and where it requires your correction. Scalable technology can finally bridge the implementation gap of structured literacy, but the human teacher remains the ultimate, irreplaceable authority in the classroom.